What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sideline Sports. I'm Trevor, your host. Today we're talking Giants. It is Tuesday. There are a few rumors we need to address, a few signings, or just one major signing, to be honest. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you are out there and you are watching the videos and you're not hitting the subscribe, please do hit the bell. It'll notify you when we upload these videos for our podcast. And our podcasts are going to be a lot more organized. We're doing this every day at 11:30 roughly. So, guys, again, hit the subscribe if you would please. Let's get into it. First and foremost, Giants signed Justin Verlander, and I think it's a good signing. I think they got him for the right amount of money. 15 million, I think, is what he signed for. It's a 1 year deal. In baseball terms, that's not a lot of money. So the real question is what Verlander are we going to get? Didn't have a great year last year. So are we getting a guy that's on the downside of his career and we're just kind of seeing somebody who's going to come to the Giants and fizzle out? Or does he have a little bit more left in the tank? Hard to say. Hard to say. Let's see what happens with him. But I do think a guy of his caliber, I think he's somebody who can still get you some wins. Is he going to be the Verlander of 2, 3, 4 years ago? I don't think so. But for the money, I think it's a good upgrade at the in the bullpen for the Giants. I definitely think it was a smart move. What do you think, Alex? Do you think this guy is somebody who's going to come in and give us some production, or was it just another destination before he decides it's over?
Well, as you know, and it's been well documented, I am the curator and the founder of the Unhittable Justin Verlander fan club. And any
Yeah.
clips that are taken out of context, in context, or used against my current argument saying that he was quite hittable by Pablo Sandoval in the World Series is
Yeah.
pure slander, libel, or whatever will get me lots of monies. But no, in all seriousness, this has happened a lot where, Giants will get pitchers who are on the back end of their career, like Randy Johnson
Yeah.
and, a lot of, there was a guy from the Dodgers, Oral Hershiser, and they still had solid enough years. They weren't who they were, but
Yeah.
it is somebody where it's like you're not going to get somebody who's just going to bomb. They're not going to be a horrible signing. Like Justin Verlander, at worst, will have an average year. He will not
It's a
be
safe
an
signing.
albatross. What?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a safe
and
signing. You're not
and
gonna
it's
you're
like
not gonna tank on that signing. That's not gonna happen. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm trying to look up now. Like, let's see. Excuse me. When he pitched for the Giants, which was very end of his career, pretty much last year he of his career. Let's see what he have wins and losses. He was 8-6, and he's like, okay, that wasn't great, but was he an albatross? No. I
No,
mean,
and
it's
Verlander's not gonna lead your bullpen, but it is a move that Buster Posey made that said, "Hey, I'm making moves. I'm bringing guys in. Nobody's gonna come play for the Giants unless they are making positive moves in the right direction."
yeah.
So,
Oral Hershiser was 11-10 when he was with the Giants. So it's like at worst, it's going to be like okay, but it'll be a name whether on the down like and those are both Hall of Fame level pitchers, and I believe Justin Verlander's on his way to a Hall of Fame career.
oh, without a
Uh,
doubt,
you know,
he's already
and
going to the Hall of Fame. It's just
and
about
so yeah,
when he
and so it's like,
retires.
hey, everybody, you want to see a Hall of Fame eligible? Yeah, see MVP, three-time Cy Young, uh,
Yeah.
two-time World Series champion. I mean, look, yeah, this guy's going. He's also a guy who has an outside shot of getting to 300 for wins. And I
Yeah.
say outside, but he's at 262 career wins.
It
So,
depends. He only signed a 1 year deal with the Giants, so reaching that mark is probably kind of tough. We'll see how he does. They
but
signed him to a 1 year deal for a reason, right? Just to see.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
But you are seeing somebody who, let's say he had 10 wins, 15, and not who knows if he does, but what if he does? And you're like, oh, because I mean, look, Clemens, a lot of pitchers are into the mid 40s,
Mhm.
Nolan Ryan. It could happen, probably not, but you're seeing a guy who's closer to 300 than not, who's a multiple time Cy Young winner, multiple time world champion, and
Yeah.
that might get a few more butts in the seats or at least change the culture and make other veterans, like the Iguodala effect, although Verlander's later in his career than
Yeah.
Iguodala was, but still, it's not going to change overnight. Like Farhan left them like the cupboard is bare in terms of
Mhm.
people wanting to come here or what we have, and it's going
He
to
left
take
them a
time.
hot mess. That's the
Yeah,
bottom line.
you need offense. But one of the things I liked was that Verlander said the Giants weren't even on my radar until Buster Posey called.
Yeah.
Next year,
Yeah.
hopefully, that's a guy who's not 41 who's saying that same line, but it's got to start somewhere.
It does, and that will tell the rest of the league this guy is trying to bring in talent that it can still make an impact.
Yeah,
Good, positive players in the clubhouse. He never
exactly.
complains, and that's what you're trying to do: build a strong clubhouse that people can look and say, "I will go play there." The biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons in my belief is why players don't come to San Francisco because it's California and the taxes are horrible. So, like we talked about in previous videos, the Giants have to come up with inventive new ways to make up that money on the back end somewhere, whether it be business deals with tech companies like the Warriors do, or whatever it might be. They've got to figure out how to get those players some extra money on the back end so that those taxes don't hurt so bad. And if they do that, then other players will come and play with the Warriors. That was one of Durant's biggest things, but they got Durant involved in some tech companies. He made more money than he was taxed. It worked out great for him. So you gotta look at that with the Giants and take that page from the Warriors and try and duplicate that to create a successful franchise. So bringing Verlander in sends a message to the league that Posey's here and he's trying to make moves, and people like dealing with Buster Posey. There's a good move.
Baby steps. Yeah. And it is also a thing where it's like, if he's on a 1 year deal and they get out of contention, maybe they trade him. I don't know how exactly, like maybe it's one of those things where they're trying to flip some contracts. They got a guy that can either be good for them and there's somebody who can put some butts in seats,
Yeah.
or they might try to just be like trying to flip, contracts, shed stuff. Like it really depends on the situation, but it's going to take a few years. Like Buster Posey is not going to be able to change the culture overnight, or not the culture, just the perception. Because I'm sure he's going to change the culture immediately. Like that guy's three-time champion. That culture is changing. By the end of spring training, there's going to be a lot of. He's gonna root out all the people who don't do things his way.
Right. You don't want to be here,
Great,
you're out of here. You don't play
but the
with you're out of here.
perception.
You're trying to win. Yes.
Yeah, the perception is going to take years, and like
Right.
you said, they're going to have to goose it, and they won't. It won't matter. Like they would goose it today if they could, but the thing is, it ain't going to happen this year when you got the Farhan stench, of the last 4 years of like let's have an opener, let's have a robot roll out to the mound, let's have
Yeah.
AI, at first base,
I know.
and all that garbage sabermetric stuff that didn't end up working. And
No.
so it's like it's going to take a few years where people go, now it's a destination. So, but I mean, like grab somebody. I mean, you can't
You
sit there and
can
say,
use the sabermetrics for some of your guys. You can't use it alone. You have to
yeah,
have your key players that produce. And then if you go out there using your sabermetrics to find some of the players that you need when you don't have the money, cat, he wants to be a part of the show. When you don't have the
he
money,
doesn't like
then
that the
it
boxes,
kind of can work out.
gosh, the box is holding up the flag.
Yeah, it's working out.
My
The
tech
flag's
crew
not
is,
going
is
anywhere
actively
so
working
far,
against me.
but
Yeah, it's good.
so that's it. But that brings us to the next guy. I mean, we lost out on Sasaki, right? Roki Sasaki let the Giants know they're not in contention anymore. Very frustrating because how many times have the Giants swung and missed on players? I mean, it happened, with Judge too. So it's a matter of, to me, culture on top of the taxes that they pay. They're going to take a pay cut to come here in some ways. So if they're going to do that, they want to win. If you don't have a winning team on the field, it makes no sense to contend even with them.
No,
So,
everything
and
will
this
fall
pitcher
apart
looked
like
at
my
the
background.
Dodgers and he said, I'm going to go to the Giants and
Yep.
I can't beat the Dodgers this year or next year. I'm not starting my career like that. That's the
Nope.
bottom line. So
No.
it's a simple choice for a guy like that not to come to the Giants right now. Next year after, when I would give the Giants 2 years before they're contending for a World Series. That's what I feel like. I said that last year when I was doing the Giants podcast, that I felt like it was going to be 2, 3 years before you're contending, but be patient. You have a good base. I said that when they had Snell, but Snell complained, acted like a baby, and left. Whatever. You don't need a guy like that because he didn't really perform for half the season. He was a letdown for most of the season. So good riddance, whatever. He's gone.
Yeah.
Um,
It much like my Giants flag falling, due to Gus, there's a lot of discontent. There's a lot of the culture where it's like, why stay? Why waste my good years? I can make that same money anywhere else, pay less taxes and or win, you
yeah.
know. And it's just something that like it's I gave Farhan like 2 years. I was like, listen, it's gonna take a little while to turn things over.
Hmm.
And he had like a brief blip, or I think it was like what was it, Buster Posey's last season, where they made the playoffs, and then Buster Posey's like, I'm retiring, and then they didn't do anything after that. Joey Bart was a bust. That was pre Farhan. That's not really his fault.
No.
But
It
the
took way
whole
too long to bring Joey Bart up, so I knew there was an indication there that he wasn't going to be the guy, at least not now. So
yeah, yeah, and
that didn't
and
work
and so
out.
it just. I would say like yeah, I gave Far. I was like, look, I'm not gonna say after the first year. Like my other Giants friends were like, disappointed in Farhan, and I'm like, you got to give him a couple years. And after a couple years, I'm like, okay, now we can criticize him because you can't like. I was like, look, you got to have like 2 to 4 years to be able to execute a plan, and you can't really criticize until like after year two. After year two, you can be like criticizing. After year 3 or 4,
Yeah, you're done.
you've done
Two
enough.
years is honestly not really even enough to be, if you're being fair, it's not enough in 2 years, but it's
Or to
enough
start criticizing,
if you
not to
start,
can him.
yeah, if you see the ship turning and you say, okay, these guys are starting to win more, we got a couple
Right.
guys here, we're progressing, there's no reason to complain. 2 years, nothing happens. Yes, you can start complaining at that point because this guy has been sitting on his ass for 2 years and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
So
It-
Aronzite just couldn't get it done because
nope.
you're right, he was too sabermetrics.
He's a nothing burger. He had no personality.
So
Nobody wanted to stay with him.
no,
I can't even
nobody wanted to
count.
deal with him. Yeah. He
They said
looked
on
at a player as
Trout.
a commodity, not as a person. He
Yeah.
didn't deal with them. It wasn't, and yes, that is the nature of the business, but players want to know that they're being heard and that the franchise is going in the direction that they want and that somehow it's catering to the way they play baseball and like to play baseball. If the guy on the
Gotta
other
be
side is tone deaf, you're out. You're out, you
got to
know?
be charismatic. You got
Yes.
Theo Epstein was great on the Red Sox because he was Moneyball with money. Goes over to the Cubs, same thing. He's a personable looking guy. He interfaces with the public, and then you get Joe. Was it Joe Madden for the Cubs? You had Terry Francona for the Red Sox. You had a front facing GM and a front facing manager. People GM, people manager, and pleasing kind of people, and that works versus you have, Farhan, who's like, more at home with his computers or whatever it is.
Sure.
You have a manager who like tans his balls, and it's just is weird,
Yeah.
and it's just like, George Hamilton's like, hey, lay off the fake tanning.
Dude, if he spent as much time on the fake tanning as he did with the
Yeah,
Giants, then they would have a good team. But you're right. The bottom line is nobody wanted to come play for him. You couldn't spend more money at the time, so you couldn't lure players in with
no,
with uh with with the money he had to spend, and he wasn't charismatic, so he wasn't selling the team. He
no,
wasn't selling why you should be in San Francisco. There is another name out there, which is Pete Alonso. Um,
yeah,
He's been on the market for the better half of a month. He wants more money than anybody's offering him. The Giants could get a deal on this guy if they take him. They need bats. They need bats as much as they need pitching, and this guy can hit. On top of that, he might come in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder with the way free agency has gone for him. He thought he was going to hit it big. It hasn't happened to an extent for him yet. Obviously, he's not signed. Might be a good name for the Giants to continue to monitor. It looks like they are. They might get a discount on this guy.
yeah. So I'm looking at Pete Alonso reportedly offers Mets a deal. I don't know what that means, but like,
And that could just be, I mean, as of today, it's just there's no recent progress on anything for his signing. So
oh,
I don't, I mean, smoke and mirrors to try and get somebody else to start ponying up. I don't know. I think the Giants are interested in him for a certain amount. I just don't. I think he's asking too much. Um, there is a reason teams are not biting at this guy. And you and I may not see that, but these teams who play each other on a regular basis, players, coaches, owners, they know these players inside and out. And if they think Pete Alonso's got either an attitude problem or this is just a flash in the pan and he's got nothing left in him and it's just going to be a waste of money. For whatever reason, nobody's biting at this guy, but there is a good reason for it. I guarantee it. Somebody would have signed him already if there wasn't some sort of buyer beware attached around his neck right now. So I'm not saying he can't be a good player, but he's not going to get what he's asking. We could get him at a discount. Let's see if he continues to play good baseball. I think there's a chance of that. I just think that there is a buyer beware sign on his back for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but it could just be he's asking for way too much money. Giants could get him though, could get him at a discount. I think it's worth getting a shot. I think it's worth taking a shot depending on how much money.
Yeah, and I think you even overpay if you have to, because you got to be able to show like with the amount of people from Harper
Yeah.
to Trout to Otani to so many others
I don't
that
think we're ever going to get Trout, but Harper, I definitely thought there was a little bit of a chance there to get him. I
yeah,
there was more of a chance with him than Judge because I think Judge just used the Giants to negotiate with the Yankees.
fair
But I
play.
do
You
think
know.
I think Harper. I think it was down to the Giants or Philly at that point. I really do believe that. Um, Obviously he went with Philly, but that would have been great to see Bryce Harper in a Giants
Yeah.
uniform.
It's just they need to land somebody, and even if we know that we overpaid, you got to be able to say you beat somebody, like because you're not going to ever break the floodgates open. And if you're Blake Snell, you're like, man, I'm not going to get any hitting help, and that happens sometimes with some of the Giants' great pitchers. They burn themselves out, like Jason Schmidt
Yeah.
was a wonderful pitcher, should have been a Cy Young winner if they just had a better bullpen and some hitting.
Mm-hmm.
Or the hitting was just the bullpen was terrible, and he
Yep.
just burned his arm out because it would never. He was a guy who would go like 9 innings because but they had to, and
Yeah.
that you be Blake Snell. You could say, "Hey, locker room cancer, this and that," but you could also look at it and like, I'm not getting any help, and I'm not. It's not on the horizon.
Yeah. I wouldn't call him a locker room cancer because he didn't have an attitude within the
Well, no,
locker
I'm saying
room
not
side
saying
of
you do. I'm
things.
saying like
But yeah, no, he wasn't invested in the team, so you don't want him
yeah,
there because he's not going to go out there and give you
can't
everything.
blame them if they're not going to land anybody who can hit.
Yep, yep. So it takes time anyway. I mean, just people need to understand in a day and age where everything is at your fingertips. You order something from Amazon, it's on your front doorstep in 2 hours. Well, we need to learn patience. We need to understand this is a process. You're putting together a team, guys, and it takes more than a year to do this. If you played sports in your life, if you played baseball or basketball or football, anything, I played baseball for 16 years of my life. And I've been on some bad teams. I was on some good teams. I was on the same team when I was a kid. You would be on the same team, City League, for 3 years in a row, and maybe 2 out of those 3 years you weren't very good, and then you won a championship. I mean, I was on a team we won championship 2 years in a row. The first year we were young and weren't that good, but we played together, and kind of over a couple of years we won a few. It takes time. You can't just throw a bunch of people on the field and have them understand how they play together with each other and it takes time. People need to be patient. The Giants will get there. They got Posey. A lot of people like Posey, so he's going to bring in some talent. How far he goes with that as a first time GM, we don't know, but he's off to a good start. He's off
Yeah,
to
I mean, it's he got a name, and people can argue about whether or not that name is in the prime or on the back end, and we know he's on the back end of his career. But he got somebody, and we know,
Yep.
and people know of him, and he's a proven success, and he'll probably do, all right with the Giants, and that's what they're going to have to do for the next couple of years. Is he's going to have a track record of first getting people who are maybe over the hill but were great players. They want to come here, and then you get veterans who are on the back end but still have something left in the tank, and then you'll get people in their prime, and then you'll get up and comers. It
Yeah.
isn't just going to be right off the bat. I mean, the big thing will be how quickly does he turn around the farm system with his knowledge as a catcher?
True. True.
That'll
That's
be
a
interesting
big
too, because
thing.
that'll speed up people wanting to come there going, hey, their farm system's loaded.
Yep.
Or you can talk with people to trade for people by using some of those, but they're not in a win now mode. They're in a,
No.
let's build something solid.
Yep, and they'll get there. I mean, the Pete Alonso thing, he's asking for $93 million, so it's not a small amount. It's not the top of the list of
Yeah.
highest paid players, but 93 million is nothing to balk at. I think
Over how many years?
I don't know how many years. I think that's a 5 year contract, but let me just double check because I'm gonna click on it
3 or 5.
find
I,
it out.
you know,
Um, let's take a look here and see. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be a 3 year deal worth $93 million. That's what he's looking
too
for.
bad.
3 years,
Yeah,
93 million. So, I mean, we'll see where it goes, but I mean, that's a large amount of money, not astronomical for baseball. So, I would go out there and I'd take a chance on him for that. I would. But, we'll see how it goes. I think I think he'll probably stay. I don't know if he's going to stay with the Mets, but if he doesn't, the Giants should definitely make a push for him. He hasn't signed with the Mets yet, which means he's still looking for a little bit more than he's asking. If it's 93 million for 3 years, I would up it. Fine, give him 100 for 3 years and see what happens.
yeah.
So I would do that. Like you said, overpay, get the guy in there, get some excitement built around the Giants, and build that team. Start to build that team.
I
They're
may
on.
have overpaid for some really awful players or
Yes.
way overrated players before. So overpaying for a guy like that is not
Pete
as over.
Alonso's not a guy who's going to be. I mean, I mentioned that he's a guy that maybe he doesn't have anything left, or maybe somebody. I don't really truly believe that, but he's not signing because other teams aren't upping the ante for
Yeah.
whatever reason. I don't know why. But I can say I think for the Giants it might be worth it.
Yeah, and I don't see why there wouldn't be. I mean, you want those balls to hit that water and have those kayaks go nuts for it. You want that's a reason to put people in seats.
Yeah.
If you pair him with Verlander and Verlander has a good year, maybe he wants to come back for another.
I
Maybe
mean, you have a great roster. The Giants still have some good players on that team. They got Olsen, or is it Olsen or Chapman? I'm sorry. Keep messing that up. Anyway, they have guys that can hit. So I mean, I'm just looking at this and saying, uh, they got a base. Get a couple more guys this year. You're not going to win it all. See where it
yeah.
goes. See where it goes. So anyway, guys, that's the news today on the Giants. Thank you for joining the podcast. We will see you every Tuesday here talking about the Giants. And remember, tomorrow we got a Warriors podcast. They're bad. They're not good right now. I'm starting to be on the side of tank for a really good draft pick.
But they already
Cooper
are if
Flag.
they're just pulling everybody. Like, you remember when
Yeah,
players like Michael Jordan
I
would
have
play
dreams of Cooper
back-to-backs?
Flag. Cooper Flag is like, but you got to be. He's going number one, no
It's
doubt.
just gutless. That load management stuff is a load of,
It's not
really.
good. And if you're tanking, tank because
They
flag.
did. Look what they did with the Pacers. We're not going to play anybody.
Yeah, no, I
Not
know.
playing Curry.
So I mean, you lose to the Raptors, who are basically the one of the worst teams in the league. You might as well tank and go get flag. That guy is like the white Michael Jordan. He's a white coming of Michael Jordan. I've never seen a white boy jump from the free throw line and slam the basketball like I've seen Cooper Flag do that. That's amazing. He's going to go number one, and he's going to make a team just a million times better at the bat. Might as well be the Warriors tank. I don't know if the Warriors will do that, but I would
Yeah.
be anyway. Let's see what happens. But guys, again, thank you for joining the podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk more about the Warriors. 11:30 tomorrow. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Alex, for being here. He'll be here for the remainder of the podcast for as long as he'll be my co-host. And we'll talk soon. See you in the next one.